Good to see everyone. Just to back up for a quick moment, I want to thank everybody again for this summer. We didn't get much of a debrief from all the stuff in July. I thought the co-chairman was outstanding that day, and it was such a great time to kind of unveil all the work that we've been up to. Then I wanted to congratulate those of you who unveiled a little bit more, during the Capitol Kiosk day. I was able the next day to swing by and take a look, and it's good to have that in its home and place. So congratulations on that. Just as a side note, I just want to tip my hat to the governor. I thought he was outstanding that day. Just, and a lot of times people in those kind of positions don't get the recognition that I think sometimes they deserve. When you're doing 4 or 5 of those every day, I just thought he was outstanding. It was a great Constitution Day. Sorry I couldn't be there. Let's get started right away. Nigel, it's good to see you on screen and all the crew. We look forward to catching up. And any business, Madam Co-Chairman, you'd like to chime in on?
I don't think so.
Before we get started?
No,
okay.
Let's jump right in.
Good morning, Nigel. Take it away.
Good morning. It's great to see, almost see all of you in the room there. I'm glad we can get going on this meeting. There's a lot of fun stuff to share. We've made some just great progress. Civics Lab is really starting to take shape. So let me pull my share up here so we can start to dig through. Right. I'm assuming everybody can see that. And thanks to the geniuses like Tana and Ashley and Jacob, I think this will work all the way through this time. So let's hope for the best. We are gonna, we've got a number of updates to go over. Ashley's gonna give us a sense of what's happening in fabrication and site work, because this is already starting to happen. We've got some sound effects to listen to, some auditions for narration to listen to, just kind of a tease for what the graphic panels are going to take shape as, so that you're prepared for them when they show up in file stage. Some other outstanding things that we need your help to get nailed down for the example, who does this job. Well, we want to walk you through how the gear interactive is developing through engineering. That was one of the most complex pieces that we have in the room. So we've figured out a way to make it work, and we're excited to show you how that's happening. And then there's some new artwork that we need you to review for the embossed artwork, some icons we developed for the different walls in the room, and then the wall graphics themselves. And then there's also some actual samples you'll see in the room there. I wish I was there to share that experience with you folks. And then we've got the Capitol Kiosk review. We're going to set that up so you understand how that's going to happen in the coming weeks or days. All right, Ashley, did I cover everything? I think that's everything we want to check into.
We sure did. I'll jump in here with the fabrication and site work update if you want to go to the next slide.
Yep.
So like Nigel said, that we're off to the races. We are fabricating a lot of these elements in our shop. So what you're looking at on the screen may not look like much now, but you'll see below there, you're looking at the puzzle interactives, checks and balances, and then some of the portraits, those frames that will start to come to life around the monitors itself.
Sorry.
I think you're good, Nigel. As far as site work, you guys are going to start seeing some work happening in that room, walls being prepped for graphics, electrical being moved around, data as well, just to put those locations where we are having those interactives. So a lot of work to come here in the next 2 months or so. And we're excited to get this stuff there at the Capitol for you guys to enjoy.
All right. Thanks, Ashley. Okay, so we have some auditions and sounds to review. There's a couple of different places where that's happening, so we'll kind of walk through what those are. The Constitution Station in the middle, we have narration that welcomes folks to the room. On the citizen station wall, we have this whose job is it interactive, the drive interactive we've been calling it. No, sorry, it's not the drive interactive, it's the audio interactive where you pick up the phone and try to figure out what department of the government, what level of the government addresses what particular kind of problem. So we have a recommendation for the person that's going to play that kind of receptionist. And then in the agency cabinet on the executive wall, we have a number of sound effects. So we're going to listen to these for your review and approval. And I think this is going to work. So let's start with Lindsay for the narration of the Constitution Station welcome video. And we'll play it a couple of times. I'll just start here.
Lindsay Rousseau, 2 takes. Welcome to the Wyoming Capitol Square Civics Lab. This hands-on exhibit brings Wyoming's Constitution to life. As you investigate each station, you'll learn how you can be a part of what George Washington called the Great Experiment. Welcome to the Wyoming Capitol Square Civics Lab. This hands-on exhibit brings Wyoming's Constitution to life. As you investigate each station, you'll learn how you can be a part of what George Washington called the Great Experiment.
So a couple of things there. We like this being a female, sort of to counter the male voice that you're hearing in the Portraits of History. And also research shows that a female voice, especially for our younger audience, is a lot more accessible and trustworthy to them. She has a good pace to her reading, so it'll get us to the amount of content that we want to fit within the brief amount of time we have. I mean, I think those are both good points. We reviewed 127 different auditions for this. We narrowed it down to a smaller group. The core team listened to those with us, and we all landed on Lindsay. So I'd welcome your feedback.
What's the reaction, troops?
Sounds great.
I like it.
Yeah, I thought she sounded great.
I just wonder where we go wrong. I mean, if we trust the good voices and then we grow up and we trust what voices that we probably shouldn't.
That's true, yeah. All right, so can we mark that one as approved?
Yeah, I see a lot of head shaking yes, Nigel. So I think that's a thumbs up.
Excellent. All right, for the person kind of playing the receptionist, we have Sandy. There's content here that isn't necessarily relevant to what she was saying, but you get a sense of her voice and how, just to remind you, a kid will pick up the phone and select an issue that's related to the community that they live in. So it's a pothole or a water main burst or water fountain cracked or something like that. Then they select the level of government that they think is relevant for that problem. They'll push that button and then they'll hear somebody answer the phone on the other end and tell them whether they got that right or not. So Sandy's going to play that role for us. So let's hear how she sounds.
This is Sandy Buck for Stars. Hi, I want to report a pothole in my town. I want to report a broken water fountain at my neighborhood park. Thank you for calling your local government. We handle pesky problems of daily life, including potholes. Nice work, Civic Superstar. You have reached your local government. We can't help you with the problem, but we can get those bats out of your attic. Those guys never pay rent on time. Please hang up and try again.
Okay, so that's Sandy Buck. What's the group think?
She's perfect.
She's fabulous.
Yeah, we can't help you at this time. Just like it.
All right, excellent. So we've got an okay with Sandy too. That's lovely. All right, so this next set are the sounds that you'll hear. So when kids go up to this agency cabinet, all the fronts of the doors will be labeled with the different departments and agencies that we're highlighting to show the expansive nature of the executive branch. And when they open the door for Game and Fish or the Department of Ag or DOT, they'll be greeted by a sound. So this is a part of the meeting that you're going to tell your kids about later today because it's bizarre that we're doing this, but but I think the kids are going to love it. So let's start with an elk sound, and these are all fairly brief because we don't want it to go on and on forever when they open the door. So it's just like 5 seconds of sound. So let's start with the game and fish, which department? So we're using the elk. All right. I'm just going to move through these and then we can chat about them and I can replay any that you need to hear again. For stake construction, we are going with power tools. For the Department of Ag, we are going with cows. State engineer, water, and we need to edit this one down, but you'll get a sense of how this will work just from the sound. And we're actually going to slow that one down a little bit as well, just a little bit, so it doesn't feel quite as rushed. For the military department, we like the sound of the helicopter. And finally, for DOT, Department of Transportation, we're going with horns. Okay, so that's our set. So just imagine these kids walking up and this fairly safe looking cabinet. You open the door and you're greeted by an elk call or a car horn. I think it'll be a kind of a fun surprise for them. Obviously, other things are happening from other doors, but these are the sounds that we need to review with you folks and see if we get an approval on those selections.
Any comments?
I think the only one I would have a hard time identifying maybe is the power tools. I don't know if that could be a little more, if the sounds could be more segregated.
Okay.
Or like saw could be more
Could be
distinct or a little more high.
I mean, we don't want it to hurt ears, but you know, like.
Yeah.
And if I closed my eyes and just listened to that, I don't know if I would know what it was, whereas all the others were very clear.
Let me play it again real quick.
Sounded like horses.
Yeah.
Our roof done this summer, and that's exactly what it sounded like. And so I could picture those guys on the roof doing that.
Yeah.
I agree with the co-chairman. I wonder if we couldn't incorporate the sound of a saw in the background.
Well, I feel like there is a saw, it's just not.
It's too quiet, yeah.
Yeah.
At least I missed that part of it. I just felt like, maybe that just hammering nails wasn't quite enough either.
Yeah, that's great feedback. We can find a version of this that has a little more distinctive tone to it, to the different equipment being used. So it's different power tools. So it's more readily identifiable. Absolutely. We've got just 5 seconds, but I totally believe we can do that. This is one of the categories where it's easy to find a few options. So we should be good. Any concerns about any of the other ones?
I would agree that the water, it ought to sound more like a river than a faucet.
And that actually was intentional. We wanted to focus on the source instead of the delivery.
Well, it doesn't mean we agree.
This is Suzanne. I have a comment about the car horn in Wyoming, and that sounds like a busy, irritated freeway car horn, which we don't really have in Wyoming. We do hear truck brakes and truck horns, and I wonder what the group thinks of that.
That's all, that is very true. However, for the audience, I don't know. Yeah. We want to make it pretty.
Clear for kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to throw that out there to see what everyone thought.
Yeah, I don't disagree with Suzanne at all. I just, it's kind of a coin flip for me. The sound of trucks on a highway with a
Semi horn, I mean,
maybe a semi horn, that would certainly fit as well for the Department of Transportation.
Yeah.
No Jake brakes, those.
So I guess my comment, Nigel, on all of these is you're giving us one sample as opposed to alternatives. So I'm just curious why. It's like take it or leave it.
We listened to a number of different options. We walked through a number of options with the core team and narrowed it down to here, to these. But any of these, if you want to listen to an alternate, we absolutely can provide that. We're looking for something that's simple, easily identifiable. It has that sort of surprise effect when you open the door that you don't expect it coming out of a cabinet. So it's just got to be a simple kind of punch that grabs your attention.
Yeah, conceptually, I like it. For this age group.
I do too.
Yeah.
So let me kind of narrow this down. For the state construction power tools, we like the general idea, but the power tools weren't identifiable enough. So the sound of the hammering is good, but maybe a more prominent saw and more identifiable saw sound would be good.
Yeah.
For the water, are we preferring something that sounds more like coming out of a faucet as opposed to a creek?
No, I think Representative Nicholas said he wanted it to sound more like a river, and I think what you're saying is we picked the river one already.
Okay.
I don't know if I think that's the disconnect,
Yeah.
but maybe slowing it down would probably help with that concern.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And then for Department of Transportation, look at okay, talk me through that again. More like truck sounds or a truck horn, a semi kind of horn as opposed to a car horn.
Yes.
Eddie, what do you think? Any strong feeling one way or the other? I think Suzanne brought up a pretty good point. We don't have a lot of car horns in Wyoming.
And
Maybe.
little kids do know when you're on the interstate, you go like this and you get
Yeah.
into semis to honk their horn.
That's
So
right.
that, I'd be curious how that would. I mean, I think the car horns are okay, but I would be curious to hear maybe a semi horn.
I kind of like that better myself, actually. It's more of a surprise and kind of a punch than the car horns. I kind of like that one, sort of cool, whatever that sound. I'm not gonna make that sound.
Just smiling. I've got a grandson who just can't wait. He can hear the garbage truck coming from blocks away, and I know he'll pick up on a sound like a truck horn. So,
Excellent. All right. Okay, that's great feedback. We got some okays on quite a few of these, and we will provide options for the construction, state engineering, and DOT. Okay. All right, so we have started to take all the content that the subcommittee has developed the outline for and approved. The content has been worked through and written. That's continuing through reviews as well with the core team, but we're moving into the graphic panel stage so we can start to get this engine going, so we can meet our deadlines for production and installation. So we wanted to show you just some examples of what those graphic panels look like, so that when you see those panels in October, you'll know what to expect in the file stage review. So let me just show you a couple. Here's a couple. One of the Watt panels and one of the Your Turn panels. So you can see how we've started to use some texture, some layering, lots of doodle elements, overlaid framing around all the elements, some sort of hand-drawn shadow work, playful approach to typography where the doodles kind of interact with the typography and they're not highly structured, but they're simple and accessible. The copy's not too long, so it doesn't feel intimidating. All the typefaces are very legible and easy to access. And the color palette and the use of the color palette and the use of the watercolor texture on the backgrounds helps to add some character and interest to those large swaths of color, and helps to define and give hierarchy to the content. I really like the way the playful nature of the doodles happen around these 5 points on the Your Turn panel, just to be more expressive and more engaging. There's a fair bit of content here, so we wanted to kind of make it feel like they're bite-sized, so you can get into any one of these and access them, and I think it accomplishes it really nicely. This in particular is going to be in a sort of faux frame that's got these little clasps, these doodled clasps on it, and attached to a column on the executive branch wall. And here's a couple of other. This is the panel that goes on top of that governor's cabinet that identifies what's happening here, gets people into the space. And you're starting to see these icons show up where they're needed to sort of help guide people through their expectations of what the type of content would be for that. The color palette also helps to reinforce that when it's orange, it's who, when it's green, it's how, when it's blue, it's your turn. And this is the panel that's affixed to the bookshelf at the bottom. You can see where the button will poke through over here. With the simple instructions, step 1, 2, and 3 of how to engage with the panel, so it makes it really easy and accessible. All the type is at a size that's legible from the position on the wall or on the furnishings that they're going to be at. So you can expect to see these in 2 batches. The first one around approximately the October 10th, and the next one in batch 2 approximately October 17th. Through the file stage for your review. Ashley, is there anything else that we need to mention regarding this stage?
No, you got it, Nigel. Thank you.
All right. So hats off to the design crew and to Ellie and the content crew for pulling these things together. I'm really excited about how they've developed and how they're looking. All right. Here's a question we have for the legislative portrait interactives, the legislators that we're selecting. Just as a reminder, this is those series of 6 interactive panels, screens, that are on the wall in the legislative branch station, where each screen will have 3 steps that they can walk through, where it starts with a drawing or doodle of a particular legislator that's no longer in office, that converts over, that doodles over to her actual portrait, and then that converts over as they move the slider across the bottom to her in her real life, or well, not real life, her alternate civilian life, and then you slide over again to read some content that tells you her story, and it helps the kids to understand. Oh, sorry. That this is a citizen legislator, that these people don't just work up in the chambers and in their offices, but they work out in the world that you and I work in as well. So it's more relatable to kids. We want to make sure these are people that have jobs that kids would find interesting. So making sure we have those ones selected so that they can connect better with the kids as they see them on the wall there. There's a few things that we want to sort of narrow down a selection to. We'll only want to feature former legislators, not ones that are currently in office. We really like to feature a mix of male and female, party affiliation, geographic location, their age, and career diversity, just to show broad breadth, to connect most with the broader breadth of kids that are going to be touching the screen. And then obviously they need to have a good photo that we can use. If the story's great, but there's no photo to capture it, then we wouldn't be able to capitalize on that. You'll be getting a list of name options that we've narrowed down for you to review and to prioritize. And Rihanna, I don't know if you, I'm not sure what the time frame is when they can expect that, or if they already have that, but I don't know if you want to let us know.
Madam Chairman and members of the committee, after this meeting, we will email out the list of proposed legislators for you to comment on, along with the review of the capital kiosk at 95% before that goes live. So there'll be a couple more items after this meeting that you guys can say and review before, but DI does need some approval on those sooner rather than later, so those can be developed. So that'll be coming out.
Did everybody pick up on that?
So my question is, if we do 6 legislators to start with, it seems to me that we ought to have a system set up so we can change them and have the ability to do that ourselves at some point in time. So that the system is set up that, someday it would be fun to have 30. So you can go find one and then have the background, have it in as a resource. But we can actually supplement as part of what we do.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, Representative Nicholas, DI is designing a content management system that all of these interactives will live in with the kiosk. So we will have the ability to be able to update content regularly. And we are in the process of discussing who has access, looking around the table at a lot of these people. We've been through some training, so absolutely agree that people need to refresh content and update it so things continue to feel refreshed in a timely manner. So yes, we can, and if you have other suggestions when you review that list of other people, happy to take that in consideration so that we could work on updating that content at a later time.
Representative, I love that idea, because I think you might have some of the kids would say, well, I wonder if there's ever been a truck driver who served in the legislature, or, I wonder if there's ever been a rancher, what rancher could I find? That kind of thing. Go ahead, Wendy.
And Mr. Chairman, we will need you to take that list. I try and remember DI, you can tell us how many are proposed. We do need those narrowed down to 6. If any of that list cannot be narrowed down to 6 and you want to provide other suggestions, that's great. But we do need to have a definitive list for DI to meet their deadlines. And in addition, it would be great if you wanted to say, hey, in the future, for future scope, consider some of these names. But in the interest of getting the work going, we will need to narrow it down within DI. How soon does the subcommittee need to turn those names back around to you?
I'll jump in here.
Sorry.
Yep, I'll jump in here. If we could have that turnaround within our normal week review time, that would be great.
And Wendy, to answer your question, we have 8, and they all fit all these criteria that we need to fulfill.
So just a question for Nigel, you and your crew, or for the core team. If we've got 8 and we need to narrow to 6, how do we want to accomplish that? Chairman, will that just be based on the feedback that we give you, Nigel, that you will then select the 6?
Or would it be good for us to rank our top 6?
It just feels like we probably ought to review 6 and give the go ahead, but then incorporate some of the thoughts that we've shared that the representative had, and the ability to refresh that later on. How do we get to 6, I guess is my question.
Co-Chair Lyman, good question. I think our intent is that we just have you guys rank the 8 with your top from 1 to 8, which you prefer, and then as all the input comes back to us, we will see which the top 6 are and move forward with those selections. In addition to any other ones that you add into the mix, as you think about who would be a good representative for citizen legislative language. Rhiannon, is that kind of what you're expecting as well?
Yeah, Nigel, Representative, Madam Chairman, Senator Landon, yeah, we'll email it out so it's easy for you to get in a way that makes it clear who are your top 6 and then your 2 alternatives.
So what I don't see on your selection list is its time relationship. In other words, if we only have 6, do we want to go back to 1910? Do we want to go back to 1930 and then 1950 so that we have a kind of a spectrum of time as well as individuals?
And Mr. Chairman, I might be able to start with that one. The idea of this interactive is that they would be in our more recent past, just to make them a little more relatable for kids. But there is going to be one of those micro interactive sliders where you can zoom in on historic legislators of the past. And so those names will be coming to you as well for more historic members of the body.
Yeah, good
So
question.
no blacksmiths.
Yeah. We wanted to spark the imagination of the kids and think that's a career I can actually see myself in, and wow, I could also be a legislator. So I think that's really, really important for the kids to understand that relationship.
Really appreciate the work of your team, Nigel, and also the core team for getting us to this stage.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Simon. I appreciate it. All right. Okay, the Powers of Play Gear Interactive. We love this idea, but it was a challenge to make sure it would work properly and be safe and fun and accessible for our audiences, from kids to the people with accessible needs. Just as a reminder, it's on the Powers of Play wall. It's this interactive here, the Gear Interactive. This is the palette that we've landed on. There's some adjustments in the build itself. So I'm going to ask Jacob, who's been coordinating the engineering for this project, to help walk you through how that's working. Jacob, let me know when you want me to change and move around here.
Yeah, absolutely. And good morning, committee. It's nice to work with you all. What you're seeing here is for gear layout only. It's not for previous color designations. What you saw on the last slide is the true colors. So the idea here is just to understand how this gear interactive works. So what you're seeing on the left is the fully disassembled gear system. So to ensure everything is safe, all these gears that all have, the labels on them are going to be underneath acrylic. And we have all these shafts kind of sticking through the acrylic. So that way, when your kids or your guests walk up to this interactive, they can pick up the gears and put it onto the gear wall without having any issues, no squish fingers or anything like that. So then what you're seeing in the middle is kind of what we're calling the partially assembled. So you've put all the big gears on. It's semi-functional, but you're kind of missing the bigger picture, especially on these bigger gears. There's puzzle pieces missing inside them. So those are the ones that talk about each branch of government. So there's like little tiny puzzle pieces that split in half, which you now see on the fully assembled on the right. And then you've completed the full build. Key point here is these blue gears, the one on the lower right, the left, and the upper are where your crank points are going to be. So you can move where your crank is. If you only have one branch of government fully assembled and you try to crank, it'll only rotate or only move the gears on that one branch. It's not until you get all the gears on does the whole system work together. Nigel, we can go to the next slide.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Sorry. There you go.
So this is kind of a breakdown on a side view of what you just saw, showing the crank, showing the shafts, the gear sensors, telling the motors in the back, when to turn. Specifically, you're also seeing the primary gear, the big gear, and kind of those puzzle piece, secondary inserts. And on the side section view, you're seeing clearances, and again, ensuring that no fingers are going to be squished. You can go to the next slide. So this is a front perspective view and a rear perspective view. The front is a little outdated. It was hard to kind of Photoshop that one. But what you saw previously is the true design. The back is just kind of giving you a general idea. So if you go to the next slide, I can kind of talk through it. So this is the back. This is the true motor of the system, showing that when you have one branch of government placed and you activate the crank, it is only going to activate that one motor. The nice thing about this system too is it's all slip connections, meaning if you have one student cranking and another student goes to grab it, what it'll do is these little rubber bands essentially are going to just slip, so the whole system can keep moving, keep functioning, and not lock up or break. What you're also seeing here is hinges. So for any service, you should be able to open it 90 degrees. You can get in there, change those rubber bands if one of them ever breaks. And the nice thing about this whole system is it only requires one power outlet. So nothing too extensive from the power front. And that's it for the build.
Jacob, are you able to talk a bit about how the lights work in this and how those reward good choices?
Yes, thank you, Nigel. Will you go back up 2 slides? Thank you. So we're redesigning the light. What you kind of see here on the left next to the gear sensor are little dots. What we're ultimately going to do is a halo around that shaft. So the idea is when you put a big gear on, it illuminates the back of it, giving it a halo glow, saying, yes, you got this right. The nice thing about this system too is only the executive branch big gear can be put onto the executive branch sprocket and be functional. So if they try to put the big primary executive branch gear onto the legislative one, it won't light up. So you put the big gear on, it lights up with the halo. Oh my gosh, you did it. You got it. You're right. Once you put all 3 on, they all illuminate, and then the whole outside border will also illuminate, telling you, wow, you've done all 3 branches. You're a superstar.
Well, I have a question, with regards to the motors and the rubber bands. Are those something that are easily replaceable? What's the process if not to replace a rubber band? Do we gotta call you? Do we call 911? What do we call?
I hope you don't call 911 for a rubber band. We're actually going to supply you a plethora of additional rubber bands. So that way your team or whomever can open it up real quick and quickly swap them out.
And I'm curious how the motors work. I thought it was more of a crank. What do the motors do?
They're the true operation of the system. Because of how many gears we have, how big they are, and just overall gear ratio, we found that it was going to be very difficult to actually turn the whole thing by hand. So the motor is there to do the work for you. That way your students aren't having to muscle the entire thing. The crank in its multiple positions act as an actuator saying, yes, turn on this motor.
Any concerns, Jacob, about the longevity or staying power of those little motors? What can you tell us about those?
No, there's no overall concerns that we have at this time. This is something we've worked on. We're working with a subcontractor and they do work for Disney, for example, and they've put this stuff in Disney activations all the time and without any concern.
Okay. Well, I think it's going to be a magnet. Thanks for your outline, Jacob, of all the work you've done. I think I can see the students really gravitating to this. I just hope that it holds up. That's my biggest concern on it.
Is there already an outlet at this location, or did we?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Nicholas, there's an entire electrical plan that DI, power and data that DI is working on, and will move power and data where needed if they didn't hit the exact spot. The oversight committee planned for that room for exhibits, but they didn't always, they were close on some, but not exactly.
So their people have gotten with our people.
Yeah.
They got us 90% of the way there. That room is so close to ready for us. So that was a real big benefit and opened up the kind of the options that we had for placement and different types of experiences. So that's been a good thing. All right, excellent. Any other questions before I move on? No. Okay, so well, one of the things that we wanted to happen is to have the kids a way to sort of memorialize their experience there and engage with an item that they could take home with them. And we landed on the passport. The passport allows them to register their experience at each one of the different branch stations around all the different stations around the room with an old school embossing machine. So they'll slide their passport into the embossing machine and stamp it create this emboss that represents the citizen station or the legislative branch station, so that when they're done, they'll have a stamp, an emboss from each one of those stations that they can take home. And the emboss is kind of lovely because it's non-intrusive. It doesn't require ink that will end up goodness knows where. It's not a sticker that will end up goodness knows where. And there's sort of that touch feel of your tracing your hand across these raised ridges of the artwork. That I think kids will enjoy. It's been used in museums throughout the world, actually, to great effect. So we think it's a really nice solution here. And it ties into the use of embossed machines within the government, especially historically. But we had to develop an icon for each of the different stations. So we wanted to review those with you. And here we are. They need to be fairly simple so that the emboss can hold the visual. It needed to tie into the doodle artwork that we're using, and the typography needed to tie into the typography of the nameplates that we're using for each one of the different stations. The color versions are because there are situations where we'll be able to use a color version of this on screen or on other elements. So we wanted it to not just be an outline shape for interactive uses beyond the embosser. So we just need you guys to review these. Let me know if you have any questions, and then we'd like to get approval so we can move forward developing these and the embosses that are necessary.
Any concerns?
I like them.
I think it looks kind of fun, doesn't it?
They're great.
I hope we don't get a finger underneath there.
Yeah, can you?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Right. Okay, so we can move forward with these approved?
Up on that, Nigel, thank you.
Excellent. All right, next, the wall graphics. We'll review all these for your approval as well. We've been working through these with the core team and making adjustments, and there's still a few more bits of feedback we've got from them that we need to apply, but we are so tight to where we need to be on these illustrations that we'd love to get your approval so that once we make those minor adjustments, we can move forward. So for the citizen wall, we have that Cheyenne kind of based townscape. It focuses on the station, the depot at the end of the Capitol there, and the Alice building, the Wrangler building. We've also included a reference to the Children's Village as well. And you've seen versions of this before, but here we've kind of started to nail it down with the details and color. Any questions or concerns?
Beautiful.
Yeah. I guess one question, I mean, is that actually known as the Wrangler building? I guess I would just have some hesitancy putting a business name in the graphic.
about that, but it's actually the boot barn now.
And because I don't think that's called the Wrangler Building. I think maybe we know it as the Wrangler Building, but it's not, it's like the,
Boot barn?
the what?
Boot barn? Yeah, it's the boot barn now.
Well, it's not, but I mean, the name of the building, it's like the Boyd Building or the something, the ocean, Kevin, help me out.
I don't know off the top of my head
Yeah.
what it is, yeah.
But that would be my only concern is do we just remove that? Because I don't know about promoting an active business clothing store right now.
That's a good point.
I mean, the building is iconic and I don't think the building's going anywhere. And I don't have the same concern about the theater because that building is the Atlas Theater building,
And the sign isn't as prominent as the Wrangler one too, yeah.
right? I mean, yeah, it's not the Atlas Theater is not a business.
Yeah.
There's Friends of the Atlas Theater, which is like a nonprofit, but.
So Madam Co-Chairman, would you genericize it and?
There you go.
Western wear on there?
No,
Or
I
do
think you just
it's
remove
blank?
it.
Just blank?
I just think you.
The whole building or just the words?
Oh, no, I think the building's great. I just wonder about the sign.
The Wrangler.
Yeah. Or, and Nigel, maybe you can help me. I know this goes behind a lot of stuff. So I'm assuming that not everything in this picture actually shows up in the room when you've
Yeah,
plugged
that's true.
in front of it. So it may not be a problem, but.
Yeah, and I should.
The Wrangler, it's a great place, but I would just hesitate to commit to free advertising for a private business over another.
That totally makes sense. And I know I should know this off the top of my head, but I can't remember how much of that is covered. Some of it is covered. So I don't think you see the whole name. And I can make it unintelligible. It looks like there's something there. It looks like, oh, that's kind of a sign, but you don't know what the letters are. So it doesn't identify as a name or even a logo. So I can absolutely do that to make it so it's not just a big block of red there. There's something there, but you don't know what it is. And it kind of makes sense. Oh, it's a sign, but you don't have to read it.
And if some of it's covered up, that helps as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Like we need something there, not just a blank slate there. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So
Okay. Next is, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Can you remind me what the size of this on the wall is?
It's they range from like 20 feet to 30 feet wide, and they're all about 8 feet tall from a 9-foot ceiling.
So I'm just wondering, all the windows are covered. And they're all the same color except for the bottom row. And I just wonder when you have that large of a mural, if that will look kind of, I don't know, either mortgage or, there's no activity, it's not alive, it's like everything's closed. And they all look the same. Is that? I think it's hard to imagine this at being 15 feet wide and 8 feet tall and what it's gonna look like.
That's a good question. And I could add some sort of silhouettes or something inside. I wouldn't want to add too much detail because I think that would be distracting. But I could add some silhouettes or shadow kind of work inside some of these windows to suggest someone's walking by or standing there, or there's sort of objects within the room that create a sense of something more than just a gray field. I can look at that option, also recognizing that quite a bit of these elements are covered by graphic panels and furniture. But let me look at the spots where that's not the case and see if there's something that we can add a little bit of life to the interiors. That makes sense.
And Mr. Chairman, we had also recommended it maybe a little bit more of a sense of reflectivity. So it's obvious that there are windows and that would likely help as well.
Yeah, as opposed to the
Just
plywood.
great. Yeah.
Representative, that's a good pickup. I like where you
Yeah.
took that. you blow that up and it's gonna be very big. That's an awful lot of windows with just all the shades pulled. Yeah.
Yeah, and thanks for mentioning that. I don't know if that was Wendy or Rihanna. I can't see. But yeah, there's a number of adjustments that we're making, and all that feedback hasn't been captured yet. These are fairly intense, complex illustrations, so it takes a little bit of work to get them done. They're all sort of hand done, so it takes a little bit of time. But that feedback actually makes a lot of sense, and that's something we can absolutely execute. So we'll move forward with that. Okay, next is the the legislative branch station. So in this instance, those windows behind the dais are not visible at all. There's a panel that lives in front of that. But that's the area kind of serves as a really nice sort of frame for the panel. And that clock shouldn't be visible. That clock is actually an FCO. It's a separate element that floats in front of the art, and for some reason that layer did not turn off. Any questions?
No, I would put a chair in the front of the dais or behind the dais.
Okay. I think it might actually be covered by the panel, but if it's not, we can add that in.
And Mr. Chairman, Representative Nicholas, I think it may be worth adding that in because we've already talked to Nigel about the collateral package and that these would make great postcards. Because when the wall panels are up, so much of Nigel's beautiful artwork is covered up. But it would be fun if there were some kid version of postcards available.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Excellent. Okay. The executive branch. I'm having issues getting to the color I want here, but we're getting close.
So this picture is confusing to me.
Yeah, because of how it's broken up into the three sections. But the wall itself is broken up into sections as well. The executive desk comes out from here. The bookshelf stands here. There's another panel that lives over here. And then we kind of get into a separate little nook here, which will have that your turn panel, and that's inside the nook that goes back into the corner where the thermostat is right now. And this is sort of a separate section where the Watt panel lives with the interactive article, constitutional article. And then we're using these columns, which are taken from the columns within this reception area as a way to anchor the two sides of this sort of main body in the middle there. Just continuing these walls either side wasn't very engaging. So we wanted to add some other elements, add a little more interest and character to the mural in the background, feeling that this didn't necessarily need to be an exact replication of the space, but a sort of an example of the interior of the Capitol building. In addition, this is actually a door. That's the door in the corner, the exit door, that we are overlaying a Capitol reference door as a way to, excuse me, sort of camouflage that and make it feel like it's part of the room as opposed to just an exit door.
Oh, it's the actual door in the corner?
Yeah, there's the actual door here, and this is I've got some feedback here that hasn't been realized yet. Yeah, it's the door. It's the blonde wood door in the corner. As you go through the double doors, you see it straight ahead and slightly to your right.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Nicholas, is it the reference on the left that's actually a back of house staircase?
Yeah.
That's the concern primarily.
Yes, I can see it in context, but So the door is. Where would this urinal be located?
We will,
So you walk in, the main doors, it's the one straight in front of you on the right, correct?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Nicholas, it will actually be this east wall. And so there is a separate egress door, just a small, regular sized door on that far southeast end. The blue area is actually a nook. And so that's the reason it has a different treatment, and because blue is the citizen's role in each of these panels. But we could certainly walk in that space after this meeting.
So the door is actually the real door.
It is. It'll just have that it's called Dreamscapes, the wallpaper material applied over it.
So the door won't be a door? It'll be covered?
it will be a functioning exit door. Yeah.
And I guess maybe this will help for context as well. DI is going to apply the Dreamscapes wallpaper on every single wall surface to provide for that. You've entered into a cartoon version of the Capitol effect. So there won't be any exposed drywall in the room once this is all up.
So the regular door would really stick out in that, hence the.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So this really represents about 4 chunks of wall. If I understood that correctly, Nigel, is
This from the corner here to about right here where my cursor is the first part of the wall. Then the column punches out, and that is represented by this section here, which will have the bookcase in front of it. And then it goes back in again for the nook, where we have this blue treatment, which will have a faux column there with a graphic panel mounted to it. Then it comes back forward again towards you, where the door, egress door is, and the far right end of that wall. This is the wall with the most back and forths. The other ones are fairly clean slate.
yeah.
Mr. Chairman, it might help on that left if we eliminated that staircase and just provided a little bit of perspective into the governor's gallery. Would that be an option, Nigel?
The
A little bit more cohesive of the governor's gallery space?
yeah, we could yeah. We can just continue this kind of this kind of treatment on over here, and then maybe have a I mean, I like the Nellie Taylor Ross drawing there. I feel like we'd need, well, no, we couldn't, because there's a panel covering most of it. I mean, part of the problem here is that you're not seeing that most of this staircase is covered by a panel. And then most of this is covered by the agency cabinet, covers this whole kind of area here. And then we've got a desk coming out from here, and the bookshelf coming out from here. So a lot of these elements are actually covered. And some of this openness and sort of division is helped to create spaces for those elements that live on the walls, so they feel like they have a place to be.
It'll work, but I think it might be useful to actually superimpose what's going to be in front of it.
You are 100% correct. I should have done that.
And Nigel, you did do that with the deck that Wendy and I reviewed. Are you able to pull that up, that file stage link, and show them it's not incorporated?
Yeah, I just don't know if I've got the most current versions in that.
It was the file stage link that Wendy and I reviewed on Monday.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, I don't have a problem with the stairwell. It almost gives just a little bit of movement to to what is a pretty static wall. And I guess I don't need to see any more artist interpretations of portraits of former governors, which that gallery is what would be the option, I think, rather than the stairwell. And I kind of like the stairwell.
I do too, and recognizing that it's background.
It's not necessarily part of the governor's space, but it very much is part of the Capitol.
These are all meant to be sort of slightly tongue-in-cheek references to just to make it a little more engaging and fun. You'll notice that I've even turned one of these upside down over here. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I didn't notice that.
So I did that and then realized it's probably covered by a panel. But if you want to hold for a second, I can stop sharing and see if I can find that reference so you can see what these look like.
Turn it
Nigel.
up to a different level, and then you'll be able to see it probably.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. So Nigel, did you hear the representative on that?
No, I'm sorry, I didn't.
Instead of on the lower part of the stairwell, you could turn one upside down on the upper part.
You're right. If I did it like here or up here.
Where that is anyway, is up high on one of the stairwell.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah, because I was so pleased with myself when I thought to do that. And then I realized, I'm going to cover it up.
Yeah.
All right, let me do that. Thank you for rescuing.
That covered up. Yeah, that's a great idea. I love it.
Ashley,
Nigel, I sent
talking.
you, yep, I sent you the file stage link. I tried to share my screen, but I don't have sharing access. So in your Slack, I've sent the file stage review if you want to pop that open.
Yeah, let me dig that out. Thank you. Ashley, there you are. Okay, I'm going to share again.
And the specific page that we were looking at is page 11.
Oh, thanks for that too. Page 11. So you can see, as we move through, you can see all the different elements that are covering over different parts of this. There's that one. And then this is the one we're just looking at. So you can see how this, well, you might see that one there. I don't know. I like moving it up there though. Then the cabinet covers over this area, then this wall and this element. So you can start to see how this all starts to break out the space. And then the addition of the FCOs floating above, and like the light here will be an FCO. Sorry, I'm using tech terms. A flat cutout object that will float away from the wall, so to create some dimension, so the light will feel more as like a three-dimensional thing in this two-dimensional world, just as the letters will. And since we're in the neighborhood, the judicial branch covers over that component, this component.
Yeah, that kind
Does
of
it help you to kind of picture it? And I know we've already shared this deck with Rihanna. I can add those reference images as second pages to each one of these if you want to reshare that, if that's helpful.
Yeah, Nigel, I think that would be helpful, and we can then include that after the meeting.
100%. I've got those files with a more current version of this artwork as well. So I'll pull those together and get them added to this. Or as a separate thing, you can just shoot off separately, so we don't need to clog everybody's inbox with doubles. All right. And then lastly, the judicial branch and the powers at play. So we are using the historic chamber for the judicial branch, Supreme Court chamber, and the rotunda as a chess match to talk about checks and balances for the powers at play station. So there are some adjustments to color. It got a little bit intense, especially in the the Supreme Court thing. So we're going to pull that back so to make sure that things that live above it, in front of it, aren't lost in all the details and strong colors. But as far as sort of the overall image, I think we're really, really close.
So Nigel, I'm curious about the chess pieces. Because chess is a game you play against each other, whereas the judiciary is not a game, number one. And so it gives the impression that somehow the judiciary is a game.
I think those are the checks and balances station, not the judicial branch.
Yeah, there's powers at play station, the checks and balances.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Nicholas, you might recall that we limited the amount of real estate in this room for the judicial branch because the main goal is to just give a quick overview of it and encourage them to go to the Judicial Learning Center. So most of this wall is actually about separation of powers and checks and balances. And the idea of the rotunda is it's a somewhat neutral space. And then the fun little play on chess with checks and balances. And that's been incorporated, as you've seen before, in a number of the interactives and the content.
What's the little rectangular blob?
This thing right here, everybody asked that. There's a couple of outlets there. And we didn't want them just to sit on top of the graphic. So we want to sort of acknowledge them as a way and just kind of create this silly little bit of illustration around those two outlets.
Somebody's dumb rapper.
It looks like a pair of shorts. Maybe it's somebody's pair of shorts. I don't know.
My only suggestion is since this is not real life and the feature is the chess pieces, obviously, the two white chairs in the back right corner, I think are distracting, and I didn't really know what they were at first. I would just remove them. Because we're not really reflecting what's there otherwise necessarily, and so I think those don't add anything.
That's a great point. In fact, one of the feedback I got from the core team is do we add some color to them so they don't feel quite as out of place? But removing them is just as good a solution as well.
And you've got three people on one square. So.
It's
Well, that branch clearly has too much power.
That's the way we play chess in England. Don't you do this? Don't you guys do that?
Ganging up on that legislative branch.
Honestly, a lot of these things are covered. So some of the position of the chess pieces are so that the part of the chess piece you see is recognizable as a chess piece. So that when it peeks outside of a graphic panel or an interactive, you see the profile of one side of it or something like that. That way you read what's going on there. And then we pay that off. There's a 3 interactive panel for the checks and balances experience. And these chess pieces show up again on there, and they move from one panel to the other between each other as if a game of strategy was being played out there, so that we can understand that dynamic as it relates to checks and balances. And it gives a little more context to why it shows up in the wall graphic. All right. And that's it for the illustrations. So with the notes that we've taken from today's conversation about these, are we okay to move forward as these are approved once we make those adjustments?
Anything further on these? Big thumbs up, Nigel.
Excellent. These were fun to draw, so thank you. All right. Ashley, I think you're on board.
I am. So there in the room with you guys, we have some samples. I think to date, you guys have seen the graphic panels and the doodling that Nigel and team have come up with, but we wanted to give you some real life examples there. I think what Rihanna is showing is hold on, let me pin you guys, the gold leaf foil with a direct print. So with that doodle treatment. And then there's also a piece of furniture there. So what you're seeing is a section of that agency cabinet. And there is a base paint color. So we've got 2 different colors, which you'll see consistent throughout the room, as well as that doodle treatment. And then on top of that doodle treatment, we've got a clear coat that will protect these pieces of furniture from kiddos running around and learning all about civics.
That was gonna be my first question, is how big can we make the lacquer or whatever?
Right.
show,
Yes.
it could look used very quickly. I like it.
Is that material something that could be wiped down fairly easily?
Yeah, that's a high
Yeah.
gloss.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep, we can disinfect, we can wipe it down. I will say the biggest difference between this sample and the furniture that will be on site is all the edges will be eased, so our corners won't be as sharp.
Yeah,
Our artist here in the shop had a lot of fun painting this piece of furniture. And there's a lot more to come.
absolutely. No, it looks great. I think it's gonna be awesome.
I like
I'm
it.
so excited about this thing. It just helps me to see that this is really going to work. It's going to be a wonderful sort of crazy world that we're helping kids to get excited about civics, and it's cool.
Mr. Chairman, when we saw the sample, we saw it like you did on screen yesterday morning when we went through this deck where we saw it in real life. And I looked at it and I said, is that actually a rendering? I didn't realize what I was seeing on screen was actually the piece. And even when we walked into the room, it still looks like a drawing and not a piece of wood. So it's just incredible.
A little piece of animation.
Yeah.
I keep thinking, everyone, about the groups that come to the legislative experience, and we always recognize them and give them standing ovations and the whole thing, but boy, this stuff that we're working on right here is gonna stay with them. I think it's gonna be the real feather in the bonnet. Excited about it.
Awesome. Okay.
Nigel, Christina is gonna jump in here for the Capitol kiosk, but that's all the samples. Hope you guys like seeing things in motion.
And Mr. Chairman, before we leave Civics Lab, Ashley or Nigel, can you walk through the lighting updates for the Civics Lab space from our last meeting?
Oh, bless you for saying that. Yes, we should have mentioned that right at the beginning. I forgot. That's one of the big takeaways we had from our last meeting on site. There was the need for an approach to lighting. And we've brought in experts here at DI to figure out how we can use the existing lighting, pulling it back and changing the color temperature and stuff like that, add more lighting that helps us to highlight the things on the wall, and especially gives a sort of focal attention to that Constitution station in the middle, that three-columned fixture in the middle, so that each side will be illuminated and become a focal point. The primary sort of ambient light will be pulled back, so the focus light on the four walls will help to make all those elements star. We're needing to add some little detail lights so that we can highlight those elements that push out from the wall, that won't be covered by the wall wash lights that are already there, so that we can make sure that everything has sort of its own particular hero moment, with the focal point being that center column as you move into the room. I think that covers it. Ashley, if I missed anything, please speak up.
It's a great update, Nigel. Thank you.
And we're trying to use as much as the existing fixtures as we can. So we limit the amount of, well, cost obviously, but also the additional elements. And then the track that we're putting in, and we're looking at as low profile as we can to effectively get the light we want, but not to interfere with the view, especially of that band across the top that will be the life cycle of the law that goes all the way around the top of the room. So that's all that's been kept in mind. And just a reminder, there's like a bead of light that goes along that life cycle of the law as well, that kind of pushes up towards those panels on the life cycle of the law to draw its own particular attention to that as well. Thanks, Wendy. Thanks for reminding us to cover that.
Okay, I'm happy to jump in here, Nigel.
Thanks. Just tell me when to push forward.
Yeah, you can go to the next slide, please. Good morning, subcommittee and core team. It's good to be with you again. I'm just going to give you a quick update on a couple package 3 items. The 95% review of the capital kiosk is in file stage and ready for you. Brianna is going to share that link with you this afternoon, I believe, after our meeting here. In that review, you will be reviewing Find Your Meeting, Find My Legislator, Explore Our History, which we're also calling Points of Interest internally, Explore the Dome, which is the Dome Drone, and the Kids Capital Quest. Once that is approved in file stage, this will be deployed to the kiosks. One piece that you will not review until November is the Find Your Way piece of the activation that includes the wayfinding maps. You'll see that in a subcommittee review in November. And Nigel, you can go to the next slide just to give them an idea of what I'm talking about here.
Oh, It-
There we go. So that far left Find Your Way is still in development, but Find Your Meeting, Find an Official, Explore History, Explore the Dome, and down there that circular Kids Capital Quest is in file stage ready for your review. And we look forward to your feedback. We have incorporated core team feedback to this point and need your help to get it over the finish line. And another note is that if you haven't already, we would love for you to visit the Historic Supreme Court Room and spend some time with our Constitution kiosk. That's been deployed there and it's a real beaut. So if you have time, we'd love for you to spend some time in the room with that activation. And that's all for our package 3 updates. Any questions?
Questions, committee? Anything from our core team members? Yeah, I think that the Constitution kiosk gives you an idea of what this other kiosk is going to be all about. And I think I'm looking forward to spending a little more time with the Constitution piece. Really outstanding. I think I tell you, committee, the only thing that I was concerned with when I saw it is that it is tucked back in there. And so I talked with Wendy briefly about, I think we need to make sure to have a temporary piece of signage on top of the dais in there to say, don't miss the kiosk, the Constitution kiosk, because we had to tuck it around behind, as you know. So, yeah.
And Mr.
And
Chair,
Senator Landon, just as a reminder, there is an invitation on the panel that sits outside of the Historic Supreme Court room to come in and interact with the Constitution kiosk. But yes, anything that we can do to point visitors to this on activation, I think that would be great.
Yeah, thank you for that, Christina. That's exactly right. I think we might need another little cable topper, that has an arrow or something on it to say, here's where the kiosk is, and you'll spend some time with the Constitution. So.
and Mr. Chairman, DI is putting together a little what we call optimization package, similar to what we did after package 2. And that is one of the elements that will be in there. So they will fabricate something in acrylic that can sit on top of the testimony table, inviting you to come around and take a look. And then there's a nice little shelf under that kiosk that when a meeting's going on, we can move it over there.
Yeah.
And there's several other optimization items in package 3 that we talked about last month that will be coming in later this year for installation to basically we can plan as best we can, and then you put something in the place and go, oh, nobody can see it here. So there's some of that work that'll be done.
Yeah, perfect.
So why did it have to go behind the desks? Because the plan was to have it front.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Nicholas, that was the location, as you may recall, when we first started this process, that was the only location in the room that it could be permanently affixed for power and data. There had been discussions early on about whether or not it could be in front of the testimony table, but then every time there's a meeting, there's a lot more maintenance. I think with the addition of some nice interpretive acrylic, similar to what you've seen on the half wall panels, but in a smaller size that would sit on a stand, it'll blend in with all of your other exhibit work, and it'll be the first thing you see when you walk in the room when it's not in use. I trust that Nigel's design will
Lydia might recall we had a lot of visits about having to move things, all the time. We're using that room more for, just, kind of landed there so that we can have, some permanency to it. So Christina, can you remind the committee then, so with the other kiosk, we will be plugging along the next 2 months, and we will receive information from you as we go, with the idea to complete that in November?
Yes, so the content that you'll be reviewing in the 95% review, once we have your approval in file stage, that content will actually be deployed to the kiosk right away, with the find your way portion inactive until we can get that finalized and to the subcommittee in November for approval. After that November approval for just the find your way portion of the activation, it will then be activated within the kiosks.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, Chairman Nicholas, so we'll give you a 1-week review time on some of these items. And DI will incorporate your changes, and then they'll push that live in October next week. And then when you come at the end of the month, you'll be able to see the capital kiosks will have all of that without that wayfinding map portion, and then that'll come in November. So we're nearing the finish line with all package 3 items, and then just gonna focus on getting Civics Lab up and running.
Go ahead, Brady.
And Mr. Chairman, after this meeting, in addition to stopping up in the historic Supreme Court, it would be worth seeing the new kiosks. There's one here in the extension near the Esther Hobart Morris statue. There are 2 in the garden level on top of those cabinets, and Carly Wood Millwork, who did the millwork in this building and was a subcontractor to DI, added new surrounds to the monitors down on the garden level, and DI did the difficult work of pulling power and data under the garden level stairs, and you wouldn't know that that area had ever been touched. And it's just a really great solution, because you may recall there were 2 little cabinets under those stairs and they were always awkward. Now they have the kiosks on them, and they're right at each garden level entrance, and they'll be really helpful to visitors. And then there is an additional one up in the first level on the south side, outside of the docent office. So we hit all entrances, and then the existing ones on 2nd and 3rd level. The ones on the 3rd level were moved to just outside of the gallery. So they're in the same location on both 2nd and 3rd level, and they're just really a nice way for wayfinding throughout the building and some of this enhanced exhibits that you'll be seeing in your 95% review.
Yeah, thank you, Wendy. Any questions for Christina? Anything else, Christina?
That's it. We're just really excited about this package 3 wrapping up. We're proud of these products and really appreciate the subcommittee and core team assistance in massaging them into place and fine-tuning them. So thank you for your input and your hard work. And yeah, we're just really excited about all of these activations. They are beautiful, which I never thought I'd say about a digital screen in my life, but here we are. And yeah, they're fantastic. We're really proud of these.
Yeah, right back at you. So, Wendy, anything else on this front? Okay, we'll watch for content and be ready to provide any feedback or get a good look at it. So, okay, let's keep moving. The maquettes. I'm looking this way on this one. Does that finish our work with DI and Nigel? And I think that's Nigel, any parting comments? I guess the agenda, that kind of gets you finished up for the day.
I think so. It's been a pleasure sharing these updates with you all. I'm excited about the progress we've made. So we are so close now. It feels fabulous.
Yeah, I didn't think I'd ever say this, but it's kind of getting a little bit. How do I put this? I think I'm gonna miss this. I mean, we're. I know Well, I probably don't speak for lots of everybody else, but I.
Hey, how many meetings do you listen to elk and moo calls on?
That was very.
Not enough.
A year in Wyoming too, so.
And Mr. Chairman, as a reminder, your committee is not going away. There are several not have on the agenda yet.
Yeah.
And even with DI, we're still hoping, and we've been working with DI on tying a bow on everything with those collateral packages, but an updated tour booklet. All of the content's been written, the design's been done as far as what you see for brand standards. So it just makes sense as we can to fill out some of those pieces, a tour website of which we have the URL that has nothing when you go to it in it that is on bronze signage right now. So there's still work to be done.
Well, and we'll be looking for ways to keep you on board for the next decade. You as Representative Nicholas knows, we've spent time together the past 6 or 7 years. We know we've got work to do continuing from here, but thanks for everything. Thanks to the team. Nigel, have a great rest of the day.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you guys.
Okay, let's move on committee to the Four Sisters Kids. Kevin, you want to take this?
Sure, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. So just to kind of refresh, we discussed this back, I think, at the May committee meeting. And at that time, the desire was to purchase the existing artist proof maquettes that are currently on display in the governor's office. And then there was some debate and some question about whether to pursue additional copies of that. And so the original kind of proposal that we received was 12 total copies. So the artist proof plus an additional 11. And then as part of that conversation, there was questions about whether we could do more than that, whether we would consider them at different scales, whether we would update some of the drapery to match the finished product more than the original maquettes. So in conversations with the artist, he's pretty much willing to do any of those things, all of the above, really, whatever the subcommittee wants to pursue, and is kind of working on updating prices for what some of those options might be. But of course, scale wise, that's probably the biggest variable on those. We have not gone ahead with the purchase of those original artist proof, just because if we were to do more than the original proposal of purchasing 12 total, it saves about 36% on the cost for each set if we combine them as a group versus going ahead and buying the one. So I think we wanted to get clarity on whether we want to go back to him and say, this is exactly what we'd like to see. This is the plan. And then we can get that kind of volume, essentially pricing, or whether we want to just go ahead and purchase the one set that he's already made and leave it at that. One potential wrinkle that's come up in some conversations with our representative from the AG's office is it's not totally clear where authority lies to resell any of this. I think that was part of the original concept, was that you could auction these off to raise funds. It's not clear that necessarily our agency has the authority to do that. In the kind of language, the budget amendment to authorize money to purchase them, there's nothing about that. And so kind of her questions were about where does that authority come from? And if you were to go ahead and pursue auction of these, where does the revenue go? Because that's not specified either. And so those are some things to consider if we wanted to go down that path. I think the way often agencies would do this would be to have like that third party foundation or support group, but without that in place, I think it's a little bit unclear how that piece of the puzzle would fit.
So Kevin, that all of that final piece that you just alluded to, let me back up to make sure that I can recall exactly what we are purchasing and what existed. Can you remind the committee of that? You said 12. Was that 12 sets?
Mr. Chairman, yes. So I guess even backing up, the contract really doesn't the contract expired, first of all, and the contract also doesn't really talk about the maquettes at all. Those kind of came about as part of the process, and it was the artist's decision to go ahead and cast the one set. So the 12 is frankly an arbitrary number that he proposed, because in the contract, it does say, you know, we could purchase up to 12 sets of the finished artwork, which would be the full scale ones. So we could do one, we could do two, we could do 20. Well, I think he's open to whatever we want to pursue. And the 12 was just the pricing that was provided before, and I think that was based on the fact that in the contract was said 12 of the originals, the limit for how many of those could be created. But yes, it is 12 sets, so yeah.
So explain the 36% price difference. I don't understand.
So he's working on updated numbers, but in the last pricing proposal, he basically said, you know, if you buy the one set, here's the price for that set. If you buy 12 sets, it's essentially kind of, you can get them at a lower price. So the price per set goes down 36% from one set to 12 sets. And presumably if we went, I know there was conversations of even more than that. I think, of course, the more you buy, it's cost savings in terms of the production of it. So that price per set continues to go down as you buy more.
And Mr. Chairman, Representative Nicholas, to clarify, of those 12 sets, one of those sets was the artist proof set. So that was fabricated in 2019. So to a certain extent, it comes down to whether or not there's a market for it as the artist proof that's already been cast versus any additional casts that you may desire to have made. He would then reduce the price of the artist proof along with those other sets.
So the existing set, what's the scale on that? Can you remind me of that, Kevin? Are they just the smaller maquettes, or are they the medium-sized versions that you often see on bronzes? Does that make sense?
I mean, I think I would say probably more of that medium size. I mean, right there, maybe, yeah.
4 inches high.
Yeah. I mean, they're the ones that are, maybe you know about the
So they're
scale of
not
those.
foot tall. They're more like 2 or 3 feet tall.
Not 2 or 3 feet out.
More like 18 inches.
Yeah.
By 18 to 24.
Yeah.
But I think the idea, committee, was that obviously we go ahead and get that set. There. But I kind of get, the trepidation when we get into all this other stuff. So here's a couple of thoughts I have. Having been through this a couple of times at the professional level, when you end up with all kinds of maquettes, then you have to figure out what to do with them. And it sounds warm and fuzzy to talk about, well, let's auction them, or let's sell them at a certain price. Somebody's got to do all that. I've done all that. I'm just saying that I'm not trying to discourage if the committee thinks we ought to go that direction, but it is a bucket of work. And then if there's any doubt as to where that money can go, or who's gonna spearhead any project to try to sell 12 sets of these things or auction them, I hope that all makes sense. But we had a project up in the center part of the state that was attached to the college, and some of you may have seen the Thunderbird that is located on that campus. And that's how he arrived there, was through this maquette processing. It was a lot of work. I'm just saying that. The result was terrific and sort of iconic, but anyway, so I don't, Kevin, do you, what would you like to have out of the subcommittee related to this, or what did you discuss that we need to decide that we haven't.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think at this point, it's just, do we want to continue to pursue this idea of having additional casts made? Or do we want to say, no, we'll just buy the one set that already exists? And then I think the second question is, if we do want to pursue the idea of having additional casts made, do we want to wait to buy the one set until we kind of have a final price for everything? Or should we just go ahead and get the set that already has been cast and, see where pricing comes back for additional work?
And a little bit with you, without a plan, I think these end up in a closet. And I can tell you that I can tell you where the money will go. It will go to the general fund because there's a statute that says anything that is not specifically directed goes to the general fund. And so I just think without more specific legislative direction, I'm not sure I'd be comfortable going out for 12 regardless of pricing, but I do think the ones that exist that's maybe important, but state pursue those. I mean, I could be convinced to wait and get pricing, but I don't know. Again, I don't, if we don't have a plan for them, I don't think they should.
Yeah, so, we've talked lots of different options over time. One thought was that we give one set to every community college and to UW. And so we don't have to sell them. The question is what the dollar amount is. I know that the current budget specifically directs that mock-ups can be purchased with the dollars. But there's no plan for them because we hadn't developed that full plan yet. We talked about auctioning them off or putting them for sale as just an alternative. That had more to do with, I think, that the actual cost of how much cost to get. Well, it's 4 pieces, so really it's 48 pieces. And then do you divide them up? Do you want to keep them together? Lots of different issues. And I can also, I think, say comfortably that if we don't do it now before the end of this budgetary cycle, there probably is no chance of getting it stuck in there unless we can squeak it in at the last minute where they bring a budget conference of some sort. And certainly we don't have to make any decisions today, but I think we need to see pricing and we ought to give them a deadline for time. The other thing we can do is we could obviously change the size of the other 11. Depending on pricing and end time. So I don't want to tie our hands up yet. Just have to have more information, but I think we have to act relatively quickly and also then look at the dollars and cents. What the real cost is.
Yeah, I think that's good counsel. I think I don't have any problem with taking this under advisement, for another little bit, but maybe Kevin, you could reach back out, try to find out, okay, if we were to order 12 sets, what are we looking at? And what if we wanted them to be slightly bigger? What are we looking at?
Which is a good question because, for example, and maybe we just get 4. We could have one on the corner of each state. And that's a larger rendition. But
yeah, I'm certainly, I feel kind of the way the chairman does, but I also agree with you, Representative. I don't see any reason to close the door on anything today. I'm kind of reluctant to jump out there and just say, yeah, let's go buy 48 of these. Knowing that boy, you know, you've got to go to work and figure out what you're gonna do with all those. And I'm
Well, the
not.
treasurer already said he'll buy us.
Yeah. So, you know, maybe we could just find out a little bit more. I think the committee, am I sensing that everybody thinks we need to pick up the 4? For sure,
Yeah.
right? I think everybody's in agreement that we want to do that, and so let's hold that, but why don't we find out a little bit more? What are we looking at? And then if we want to make the recommendation that we go further than the purchase of 4, we can do that maybe in a month or so. How does that sound?
Yeah, I think we need numbers.
Yeah.
And a spectrum of 12 or 6 or. And my understanding is the next one, he has to basically rebuild that, right? Resculpt it.
And
And so that's always kind of an issue because you gotta make sure that that they're identical as close to possible.
Yeah.
And Mr. Chairman, Representative Nicholas, the last time you discussed this, you did request to see if the additional cast made could have similar drapery to the ones that are actually installed in the rotunda.
Yeah.
With Eli's comments.
Well, so couple of things, and the representative did a good job of kind of pointing toward the realities and the political considerations that we always have with things. We've got an opportunity with this budget. We may not have that opportunity in the future, so we all know that. But I think we need to know a little bit more of what we're looking at. If we want to go beyond the purchase of the 4, what does that look like?
Yeah, and I would just comment that the last thing we ought to worry about is what the AG tells us. We want to get what we want, and I have no doubt that if we order 12, and if we choose to find a way to sell them, that'll be easy to do. In terms of, you know, it'll be a hard construct, but there'll be lots of demand for them. They're just wrong. In some ways, that's why I like giving them to the colleges better, just because we share it with the state and all across the state.
Mr. Chairman, we did reach out to the artist, and so I think that he was not able to get pricing to us for today, but I don't think it'll be a problem to have that pricing coming back next month.
And then we'll need to know timing as well. And theoretically, if we do it, we ought to have a contract signed before the end of the year.
So Kevin, based on what Representative Nicholas just suggested, what is the concern, and what did you sense from the AGs where we would need to go with the authority piece? I mean, where does that authority reside?
I mean,
It sort of belong to the state. Who is that?
Mr. Chairman, I think it's exactly what Madam Auditor said is, you know, if we were to purchase these and resell them, then that money there should just flow right back to the general fund, barring the specific legislative directive to say this is where the money generated goes. I think if we're talking about distributing them to the colleges or other state entities, there's no obstacles really to that at all.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Co-chair. The other question I wanted to bring up, we had talked about, I think in May, was the rights to those. And so with these, we are saying that basically these cannot be reproduced again, right? They once this is done, does the state have still the right to say we want more later, or is this like, this is it, and then also no one else, right? He can't make and sell these for anybody else, correct?
Yeah, good question. Yeah.
And currently there's no language like that in the contract, but again, that doesn't really address the MOCAT. So if that's the intent or direction from the subcommittee, we could, in negotiation, say, you know, this would be an exclusive right to the state, or we could say, this is the number we're purchasing and no more could ever be created, and we could have that negotiation with the artist. The original language, which again was about the full size one, just said the state has the right to purchase any additional copies that are made for a kind of a right of first refusal, and that there would be no more than 12 additional copies of the set. But I think we can kind of throw all of that out. I mean, this is starting a new contract, especially if he's creating new work.
Yeah, especially if he's having to
If he's
resculpt.
having to resculpt them, I think, you know, we can just kind of bring all of that to the negotiating table if that is the desire, to kind of say we don't want him to be able to sell these to other people. We only want them to be for the state. Copyright had typically, I mean, in all of these cases, the copyright stays with the artist. So.
Well, I think, into the representative's point that these are gonna be in high demand, you would hope and think they would, probably there'd be a lot of people interested. If it just went off like wildfire, you know, and you were able to auction off 10 of them overnight, you might want an opportunity to, the state to say, you know what, we're interested in 24 more or whatever. So.
And I'm happy to work with the Arts Council on some of the language and contracting, because I think typically you wouldn't forbid the artist from making additional copies to sell, but you might have the artist, you know, again, right of first refusal to say, if you would like to make more, you have to come to us first.
Sure. Well, thanks for taking the lead on that, Kevin, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Kevin, I didn't particularly like the first contract we had. But it was already water under the bridge, if you might remember. So we have to cross those T's and dot those I's before it happens.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, if we're gonna make a recommendation on this, I certainly want to do it right, and I think some good points have been made with respect to, you know, us having the ability to do what we need to with them or whatever. So, Madam Chairman, any other thoughts on that?
Just, I think we brought this up last time, but if there's 6 or 8 or 12 or 20 copies of them, it makes them not very special. As we move forward, we should remember that.
Yeah, lots of considerations here. And like I said, I've dealt with 2 or 3 of these, and yeah, everything that's been brought up, that's what you run into. So thanks for bringing that. And I think, Brianna, I think by next meeting, we're good. We have a couple of meetings coming up this fall, committee. And that will give us an opportunity, I think, to take this back in front of the table, and we'll see what we've got. Yeah, good thoughts. Anything else on the Four Sisters? Let's go, any other comments from the committee?
So just one last question. There was a set price on the existing groups, right? So the concept is that price could go down if we order some.
Except that contract expired, so there is no more set price. Right?
They were never a contract for those. He had provided pricing a couple of years ago, basically said, if you buy this one set, it's this. If you buy 4, all of the prices go down. That would be the reason to wait if there is a desire next month to revisit this with more firm numbers, for us to not go ahead and set.
Well, that stands up reason. That makes sense. What he suggested, but yeah, thank you for gathering that, Kevin. And any other?
So that means we'll have the proofs, and then we'll have another set of proofs.
Potentially, yeah, if it's creating new work. Sure.
Any other bullet points that you can come up with or consider for us, Kevin? That would be really helpful. So, thank you. You've got the main points that have been brought up today. There's gonna be other things that, by the way, boom, and by the way, you got this and that, so that's good. So, thank you again. Anything else, committee, on anything from today? Any public comment? Richard, always good to have you here.
Mr. Chairman, it's always a pleasure to be here. Richard Garrett, and on behalf of the public, I'm humbled that I've got 15 minutes. I won't take that though. But again, your work is just extraordinary. Just two observations. One is instead of a horn, consider the sound of a snowplow, perhaps. Pushing down the road. And the other is I got a chance to attend a conference last week, and I know I've shared this kind of thing, sort of feedback with you before, but I spoke to any number of people that from out of state that have had a chance to come to our beautiful capital since its renovation. And to a person, they all remarked how beautiful it is and that it is the most beautiful capital that they've ever visited in our entire country. And many of them have visited many of our capitals. So you're getting kudos and recognition for your work far beyond our borders. So please know that. So thank you.
Thanks, always, Richard. I actually had someone up in the center part of the state secondhand who had run into somebody who had visited all 50 and said that very thing. That was third hand to me, but it was nice to hear. Been a quite a long journey, but we're getting there, and it is kind of fun to see the light at the end of the tunnel. So, anything else, committee? I would remind that October 22nd is our next gathering, and then November 18th after that. October 22nd. Is that another Wednesday?
Yeah. And we should have some homework incoming, which we haven't had in a while.
That's right. So please stand on ready with that. And I'm telling myself that. We'll get some homework done and we'll see you back here in October. Good to see everyone. We are adjourned.